tonight on the BBC or Sky said refused to rule out taxes. The third thing is that after this great spending splurge of the first 2 years, all the increases are 1.2%, right? You look at the way Rachel Reeves bows to pressure on anything, that's not sustainable. Labour backbenchers will force that up and it'll be taxes.
Sorry about this. I'm going to have to just knock this on the head for the moment because we've got a very special guest who's waiting in the wings, and I'm reliably informed if you make him wait any longer, he'll start killing people. So, after the break, here's the man that we sent to surrender Gibraltar.
Who acceded to the English throne at the age of 9 on the death of his father Henry VIII in 1547?
Henry VII.
Edward VI.
I'm amazed it isn't just entirely Spanish now, actually. We have got former Defence Secretary Marc Francois in the studio to be grilled by my three panellists next.
Westminster, the ultimate clique.
And you're fighting like rats in a sack.
But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask.
OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician.
Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off limits.
You had the power then.
Yeah, as I
and
say,
now you've lost it.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless.
But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show.
Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
So this time last week, I was on this show and the video had just dropped of her twerking in the hospital suite when she was giving birth to Lily.
Should we remind ourselves of what that is before we get stuck into your analysis? Let's take a look.
She gon' do that, baby mama. Drop down.
Oh, God, it's the song as well. It's so inane. Anyway, sorry, so what have you found out?
Well, this time last week, I was on this show going, I don't know what she was thinking, why has she done this? It couldn't be more of an own goal. But I think it was actually tactical, because what I've since discovered is that she's about to reveal that she's going to make a rosé wine, and she's going to drop, in the next day or two, she's going to reveal more products from her, her business, as ever. And apparently there's going to be a different kind of jam, maybe a strawberry jam. There might even be a lemon curd.
What happened to the first jam?
It was sold out almost instantly.
Oh, it's popular?
Yeah, it was really popular. It sold out instantly.
What sort of loser buys that? Sorry. You've got to be a real loser to buy her stuff.
But my point is that actually I think she went viral on purpose, and she knows exactly what she's doing. Because she's about, at the end of the month, she's about to relaunch her website with all these new products to sell.
So you think it was calculated? You think she's got a new wine coming out, a rosé?
Yeah, and actually her team have counted this video as a win, because I must be getting old, because I thought it was the worst video. But apparently the Gen Zers loved it. They totally got it. They bought into it. Apparently it was her most successful social media post ever. And all the Americans apparently love it.
Hate watching. I've seen it a bunch of times. That's because I was hate watching it.
I guess it's any publicity is good publicity.
But isn't it about the difference in culture between the US and this country? I mean, I watched that and it's a bit icky. And I think, weird. But in the US, that kind of thing goes down well, and her big market is the US.
Exactly that.
GB News, the People's Channel.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Welcome back to Patrick Christys Tonight, late edition. And here was the Foreign Secretary earlier today.
As a consequence of the paper-thin deal that was done by Boris Johnson, the people of Gibraltar were facing effectively a hard border. This is a border where 15,000 people are crossing every day. And that's why we had to roll our sleeves up and get this deal done.
The big front page on this tomorrow is the Daily Telegraph. First it was Chagos, now it's Gibraltar. The Labour government has made something of a habit of botching our negotiations, but there are serious questions remaining. And this is how we move this story on, OK? Serious questions remaining about what happens when it comes to, for example, British troops, British armed forces in Gibraltar. Do they have to now go through Schengen-style security? What does that mean? Do Spanish police have the authority to go and enter the Rock anytime they like if they are in pursuit of somebody? Here to talk to us about this is the Shadow Defence Minister, Marc Francois, as well as my panel. Marc, thank you for joining us this evening. Your initial reactions, then, to this, what the Telegraph are describing as a surrender deal?
Well, yes. Look, they've deliberately announced it on the same day as the CSR. They've decided this is a good day to bury bad news when they thought all the media were looking the other way. Fortunately, they were wrong. At the moment, we've just got a press release. We don't have a text of the agreement. And one thing I've known down the years, Patrick, is whenever you're dealing with the EU, you do need to read the small print. But if we're going to be fully subject to Schengen, and you alluded to it a moment ago, so Article 41 of Schengen is the so-called hot pursuit clause, which means that EU authorities, in this case the Spanish police, if they claim they're pursuing a suspect, can roam anywhere they want in the Rock. I mean, these are fundamental questions of sovereignty, and the government are trying to, flannel everyone and make, weak jokes about e-gates and stuff like that, right? Gibraltar is a fundamental, important strategic facility for us and for NATO. Blair tried to give Gibraltar away once over 20 years ago. He was stopped by public opinion. There's a referendum in Gibraltar. They voted by 99% not to share sovereignty and to stay with Britain, and now Labour are having another go. And the Argentinians will look at this and think, well, let's renew our claim for the Falklands.
In a second, I'm just going to open it up to my panel if they want to ask anything and pick your brains. But I want to raise this to you, because I think, as with all of these things, they start to unravel even more, and you get more and more lines out of it. And this is the one that's emerging this evening. Will members of the British Armed Forces serving in Gibraltar be required to go through Schengen area entry clearance before they can take up their roles? It's one thing having a Spaniard check your passport when you land in British territory. It's another thing having them check our own armed forces.
Well, we don't know, because this waffly press release doesn't tell us that. In order to answer your question, we need the treaty text, and guess what? The treaty text isn't available. It was like Chagos. That all dribbled out, and we had to wait months and months and months so Parliament could see the treaty text. I'm afraid, this government are duplicitous. This is all sophistry, and this is all designed to be announced on a day like today when everyone is looking elsewhere.
Mark, as a point I made earlier, for the rest of the panel, presumably you believe in democracy.
I'm sorry, is that a facetious question?
No, I'm saying, do you believe in democracy?
No, that's why I'm here.
No, so, OK.
Of course I believe in democracy. I'm sorry.
You mentioned...
I believe in democracy, and I believe in the fact that 99% of Gibraltarians voted in a free and fair referendum to remain linked to Britain and not to share sovereignty. So do you believe in democracy?
Of course I do, but the democracy I believe in is the fact that during the Brexit referendum, in an 84% turnout, 95% of people in Gibraltar voted to remain, not to leave the EU. Now, that, to me, is a denial of their democracy, of their democratic rights, if we don't allow this to happen.
Absolute tosh.
No, it's not absolute tosh.
No, it's not.
Why is it tosh?
Well, if you give me a moment, I'll explain. Because they voted to remain part of Britain, part of the United Kingdom. They voted 99% for that in 2002. And
that's 23 years ago.
Yes, but
we're talking a more recent vote.
Well, no. You're conflating two completely different things.
I'm not conflating. This is the will of the people of Gibraltar. They wanted that. They voted.
Well, sorry, this deal is the will of the people of Gibraltar.
Yes, absolutely.
How do you know that?
Because they voted to remain in Europe. They voted to remain.
Yes, but they didn't vote.
95% of them voted.
Yeah, but
you
Lambert,
cannot deny that.
I'm sorry, your argument is beyond nonsensical.
No, it's not nonsensical.
As they voted to remain,
logical.
as they
and
voted,
don't shout at me.
If I'm trying to get a word in.
You're a very shouty man.
No, well, I'm sorry to say. Do I believe in democracy is frankly insulting. So let's just come back. Let's come back to the facts.
It's not absolutely. The facts
the
are
people of
that
Gibraltar voted to be part of the United Kingdom, so they are bound by the overall result of the EU referendum.
You say that, but their wishes were otherwise when it came to the Brexit referendum.
All right. There's Christine. Would you like to ask any questions?
Yeah, I just wanted. I saw Priti Patel, the Conservative Foreign Secretary, Shadow Foreign Secretary, earlier say that obviously the Tories had been dealing with red lines when they were talking about Gibraltar with Europe. So I just wondered, are you aware of what the previous government's sort of red lines were, what the EU was trying to extract, i.e., have you seen anything from what's been announced today that crosses some of the red lines that the Conservative governments were refusing to give in on?
Well, Carrie, I'm not trying to evade your question, but the problem that we've got is we don't have the treaty text, so we don't know what the government has signed up to. When we have whether this was, Maastricht or Lisbon, you always had to read the treaty. And when you've got the treaty, you know exactly what has and has not been agreed to. They've announced the principle of the thing today, and they've done it deliberately on the same day as the CSR, and I hope that no one was looking. Fortunately, people were.
Yeah, indeed. Steve, I'll just bring you in on this. I mean, I don't want to be accused of playing the man and not the ball here, but every single time I see David Lammy off on an international jolly, I just think, what's he giving away now? And I'm right all the time because it was Chagos and now it's this. You look at that mastermind clip we had before and you think, have we not got anyone better, maybe? I don't know.
Surely. I mean, of all the guesses, if you don't know which kings happened, fair enough. There are only 6 wrong guesses after Henry VIII. And he managed to pick one of them. So, I mean, in some ways, good luck. I feel sorry for whoever's going to be the customs officers working on behalf of Gibraltar because you'll get the double check. The Gibraltar check and then the Spanish check. It's basically a Spanish border then, isn't it? And the Gibraltars are just there pretending it's like Bring Your Gibraltar to Work Day, looking like they get to do it as well. So it does. I can't think of another way of viewing it other than, yes, some ground has been ceded.
But if I may, you have to remember, this deal, when we get the final small print, is a deal negotiated by the same bunch of geniuses that came up with the idea of paying £30 billion of British taxpayers' money to Mauritius to rent back an island that belongs to us in the first place.
So I suppose what you're saying is they've not given away that much money this time, so you like their work. Well, I never thought I'd hear you say that.
No, don't put words in my mouth. But seriously, Argentina will now, you just watch, they will now try and revive their claim to the Falklands because to the whole world we're a soft touch.
That's the thing that really winds... There's 2 things that really wind me up about this. OK, well, 2 big ones, all right? And people are going to say, this is pathetic. I'm sorry. It makes me really angry that I could get a plane from Britain, go to British sovereign territory, and then Pedro checks my passport on the way in. I do not like it. It should be a British Border Force person. Why are we allowing that to happen? That winds me up. But the second thing is the perception of weakness of Britain on the world stage.
Yes.
And, all right, we haven't always handled ourselves particularly well. With respect, Mark, not you personally, I don't think your government did a great job on certain things. Don't get me wrong. But this is just an absolute shower. Do you think other countries are looking at us and thinking we're just there for the taking?
No.
Well, it looks like it, doesn't it? Well, that's what it... Forgive me, that is exactly what it looks like.
You think no? You think they see a strong statesman in David Lammy?
This is a very pragmatic deal. There are more Spaniards living in Gibraltar than UK nationals, way more. But there are 15,000 Spaniards cross into Gibraltar every day to work, and it works the other way around. It is a pragmatic deal that should have been sorted out when Brexit happened.
One of the things I will say, given that we're looking at the front pages, this is on the front of the Daily Telegraph. Now, I can absolutely understand why on the front of all the other papers they've gone for the focus on Rachel Reeves' spending review. I do think, though, I was expecting there on a couple of others to be a bit more on.
Well, it's in fairness to our great paper, it is the
Daily
second.
Express, it's a great paper.
I suppose the silver lining is that the Gibraltarian taxi community got through the visit unscathed.
Well, there we go. Yes, indeed. All right. Well, look, hey, thank you very much. You're just very, very finally on this. Is there going to be a vote on this in the Gibraltar deal in the House of Commons that you're aware of?
Well, I would hope so at some point. I mean, if it's a treaty, there should be a bill to ratify it, and therefore you'd have a second reading vote on the bill, unless they try and use a device called Crag. But one way or another, yes, there should be a vote on it. And what self-respecting Labour MP wants to go back to their constituents and say they voted for this?
Well, there we go. All right, thank you very much, Mark. Pleasure, as always. It's great to have you on. And hey, I tell you what, you don't get this on most pay-per-view shows, do you? You wheel in the Shadow Defence Minister. You get every single person question him. We are trying to do things a bit differently here, so thank you very much. You take care. Well, we are going to be continuing the front pages. The Sun has got a front page that it will blow your socks off about illegal immigration. You're looking at the national debt clock there. We're going to be talking about debt. However, there is an ongoing situation in the Middle East. It's not made the front pages because it's happening right now, and our Home and Security editor, Mark White, is going to be popping up for us and giving us the very latest. There is an evacuation, a mass evacuation taking place in the Middle East. I'll give you all the details on Patrick Christys tonight, late edition. Stay tuned.
Evening. Welcome to your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. It's been a warm and humid day today. That'll continue tonight and tomorrow, and the humidity sparking some thunderstorms in places too. Down to the southwest, that's where we're looking overnight tonight. Most of us having a dry night. The breeze will be picking up, but down to the southwest, thunderstorms spreading into southwest England, parts of South Wales by morning time. You could get woken up by a rumble of thunder here, if you can sleep, that is, because it will be quite a warm and sticky night in the southwest. Towns and cities holding up in the mid-teens. It's got a warm start to Thursday everywhere. Hazy sunshine for many to begin with across Scotland, northern England to eastern England, but down to the southwest, these thunderstorms dropping a lot of rain in a short space of time. Not great for the morning commute. Could be some hazards on the roads. Those thunderstorms extending into parts of Wales and then through the day into Northern Ireland. So we do have Met Office yellow warnings in place for those thunderstorms. Most of Scotland, though, starting dry and fine, perhaps a little misty along some coast. That breeze will be quite noticeable, getting quite gusty at times across eastern areas and also close to these heavy downpours. Could see some of them developing across southeast England. Heaviest ones likely further west, but then come the afternoon, if skies brighten, we may well spark further thunderstorms over parts of the Midlands. Far southwest of England should get a little bit brighter, whereas it stays pretty wet in Northern Ireland. Quite warm and quite humid. With some sunshine, we could again get temperatures into the mid-20s across parts of eastern England. Many places, they're a little bit cooler than that because of the heavy downpours and because of more cloud. Continued risk of thunderstorms during the course of tomorrow evening. Friday looks a little drier to begin with, but still some showers for Northern Ireland and parts of Wales. The threat of more thunderstorms then coming up from the south later on Friday. There's another Met Office yellow warning for that across East Anglia and the southeast. Friday, probably the warmest of this week. We may get to 30 Celsius in the east.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
No,
because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Patrick Christys' late edition. We are going to continue to do all your front pages, but a big part of this show is that we take the breaking news as we get it. And we're going live now to Mark White, GB News Home and Security Editor, because there is a very, very concerning situation erupting in the Middle East. Mark, what's happening, please?
Well, the US has ordered that non-essential personnel should be evacuated as a matter of urgency from US embassies and other US facilities in the Middle East. And this relates to the state of the current negotiations, or perhaps lack of any substantive negotiations between the US and Iran
over Iran's nuclear ambitions. The suggestion being that these talks are going nowhere. Donald Trump has said patience is running out. And we had a key intervention from the US Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth earlier today when he said that Iran was actively building a nuclear weapon. Now, that, of course, will ring real alarm bells all around the Middle East and brings us probably very close to a point where we might see an intervention in terms of a military intervention to try to knock out Iran's nuclear facilities. You remember that the Israeli government has said that it will not stand by and watch Iran develop a nuclear weapon. So the fact that the US are now publicly coming out and saying that the nuclear ambitions of Iran go beyond simply enriching uranium for civil purposes and that they are actively building a weapon, perhaps is the trigger for Israel to actually move on Iran. And clearly that would be a very, very significant escalation in a conflict that, for other reasons, with what has been going on in Gaza and, of course, southern Lebanon, has been very, very difficult in the Middle East of late. But a direct strike on Iran and its nuclear facilities, if that's what happens, will bring an order of magnitude so much greater in terms of what Iran will do in return. We've seen Iran strike Tel Aviv and other locations in Israel, using, of course, its proxies on occasions as well. And I think that is why we're seeing what we're seeing now in terms of this order from the US government to all non-essential personnel in embassies and other sort of bases and government locations, US government locations across the Middle East to evacuate is a real concern about the potential, if not for direct conflict with Iran, certainly the many proxies, aligned terrorist groups in that area, that they could potentially cause some difficulties and harm for those personnel. We saw it, Patrick, during all of the conflicts that I've mentioned there in Gaza and in southern Lebanon, where those proxies have attacked embassy buildings and bases in the likes of Iraq and Syria.
Mark, thank you very, very much. Mark White, our Home and Security Editor, popping up for us again late at night just to react to something that is big, it's ongoing, it's breaking. We'll always take that news here on this show, Late Edition. Mark White there, thank you very, very much. Watch this space when it comes to the situation in the Middle East, the US withdrawing, risks of an Iran-Iraqi deal collapsing, Israel might wade in and strike as well. We'll keep you up to date on that as and when we get it. I would expect that to be leading some of the news agenda tomorrow, of course. There's one front page, though, returning to the national newspapers that we haven't touched on yet, and it's The Sun, and we can bring that up for you now. The Sun, vive la farce, they say. And Christian, you had this in front of you earlier on, and they appear to be wading in, unlike any of the other newspapers tomorrow. They are really zeroing in on the small boat crisis and the spending.
It's interesting to think that The Sun actually backed Labour just 11 months ago. And if you read the paper now, they're not exactly dripping in praise. Yes, they just contrasting the fact that migrants were piling into dinghies and setting sail for Britain as Rachel Reeves simultaneously claimed that she was going to be shutting down migrant hotels, and then the figures suggested that we're still going to be paying £2.5 billion into funding the asylum system in 2029, even when all these hotels have supposedly been shut down. So, frankly, as they describe it, it's a shambles, and the problem is not going away, certainly, until after the next election.
So there is one mathematical solution to that which will make people's heads explode. How will they get people out of the hotels? They're building loads of houses.
Oh, yeah.
So maybe that's where they'll end up. And you can hear heads exploding in the distance.
You can, and you're absolutely right, because, and the reason I know that is because my head exploded shortly before I came on air when Sir Keir Starmer, the Prime Minister, to your point, tweeted exactly that. He said, I said we would drive the biggest increase in social and affordable housing in a generation. Today we have. Who's going to live in those houses, Nina?
Not necessarily asylum seekers. Absolutely. You know, you cannot, as I keep saying, you cannot just turn off the tap. And although people arrived in boats today, this was the first crossing this month. So there haven't been any crossings until today, this month. So you would think the way people talk that they're happening every day, massive, you know.
Well, they're happening quite a lot.
Of course, there are a lot. But as I said, you know,
in one day.
They are doing something about it. They are.
OK, all right, a range of views, a range of views.
Lucky with
well, coming up, we think this is going to be leading some of the news agenda tomorrow anyway. It's not made it onto the front pages for obvious reasons, but it's a big exclusive by GB News on Dominic Cummings. Remember him? Well, can you guess whose head he's called for now? You're not going to want to miss this.
I forecast a perfect holiday in the sun.
Weather looking good then?
For sure, and no worries about our travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News travel destinations forecast.
The heat and humidity in Spain might just trigger one or two heavy thundery showers. Heat is also building in Italy. Sunny in Greece, not too hot here though, because the winds are coming down from the north. Very small chance of a heavy shower breaking out over Croatia, but generally the weather's set fair here. Inland over Italy, also potentially there may be one or two heavy downpours. It's fine, it's dry, it's sunny in the Canaries. That will continue for the next few days, and the temperatures in Rome sticking in the mid-30s into the weekend.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News travel destinations forecast.
In the GB newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel. And as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/your-say. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
because you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
No matter the state it's in, this is our nation. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for a genuine, honest discussion on where we have been, where we are going, and where we are with the people who set the direction. That's State of the Nation every Monday and Tuesday at 8 o'clock. Only on GB News, the People's Channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact is Trump made a good start. No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Patrick Christys tonight, late edition. Quick read through of some of tomorrow's newspaper front pages. The Daily Telegraph, they've got Reeves hits police and defence to fund NHS. They're pitting public services against each other. However, the story at the bottom, Gibraltar's borders to be policed by Spain. Christian Calgi is on my panel tonight, has got a breaking news line from an inside source. Go.
Yeah, this is a former Foreign Office source who has revealed that the sticking point for this deal when the Tories were in power was the Spanish EU border controllers operating in the airport, i.e. sovereign on British soil, which is what you've been complaining about all night. So it sounds like Labour caved in on that issue.
Guys, thank you very much. Breaking news line. We've got another one for you now. Trump is talking about the ongoing situation in Iran. Let's go.
Coming. Other great ones are coming.
Fans of the opposition. What are you looking forward to?
Why are you so quiet, Jeff?
My question is on trade. Would you be willing to extend the deadline for trade talks with these countries?
I would, but I don't think we're going to have that necessity. We made a great deal with China. We're very happy with it. We have everything we need, and we're going to do very well with it, and hopefully they are too. That was a very big one. As you know, we did with the UK, and I tell you what, we're rocking in terms of deals. Now, at a certain point, we're just going to send letters out, and I think you understand that, saying this is the deal. You can take it or you can leave it. You don't have to use it. You don't have to shop in the United States, as I said. So at a certain point, we'll do that. We're not quite ready. We're dealing with quite a few countries, and they all want to make a deal with us, every one of them.
Who's next? Who are you expecting to get a deal with next?
Well, we're dealing with Japan, we're dealing with South Korea, we're dealing with a lot of them. We're dealing with about 15 countries, but as you know, we have about 150 plus, and you can't do that. So we're going to be sending letters out in about a week and a half, 2 weeks, to countries, telling them what the deal is, like I did with EU.
And are you happy with the EU right now? You were unhappy with them about 10 days ago.
Well, I'll let you know in about a week. They do want to negotiate, I will say that. Thank you.
Mr. President, we'll make the theater great again.
We are, Brian, and I'm glad you're here.
Glad to be here. What does it mean to be here tonight, now that it's under your administration?
OK, well, so that was President Trump there on a red carpet with Melania. We just thought we'd dip into it because there is an ongoing situation in the Middle East. Maybe we're going to get comments from that. In the end, he kind of prattled on a little bit about trade deals, didn't he? But I'll continue. Sorry, actually, Christian, you had the breaking line for us, again, about this Gibraltar deal, which was that for the Tories, the red line on Gibraltar was that they wouldn't allow Spanish boots on the ground over there. Yeah. Labour have decided to sign off on that anyway, Stephen, so they don't seem to care too much about it.
Yeah, that is the bit that feels like it impacts us, isn't it? The fact that it is an area that you should have free access to rather than having to go through the Spanish customs check. There was a thing in one of the articles I was reading comparing it to, like, the Eurostar, because you get the French. And,
yes, absolutely.
But you go to France. That's the difference, isn't it?
So what?
No, but if you're going to Gibraltar, you're not going to a foreign country.
No, but you're going to a place where there are lots of Spanish people.
Yeah, but
there's lots of British.
Do I have to go through customs when I go to Tower Hamlets?
No, but...
Well, increasing.
No, but it's not part of the United Kingdom. It's a British overseas territory, for God's sake. You know, you're like a dog in the manger.
But if there were no Spanish people living there, your argument would be that you wouldn't need.
What's it with rocks? Falklands a rock, Gibraltar a rock.
They're important. They're British rocks, Nina. Anyway,
most countries are based on rock, though.
I know. Anyway, all right. We're going to continue just to whiz through the newspapers. The Daily Mail was the next paper. They've got a reckless splurge that we and our children will be paying off for years. They've said it's Reeves's £4 trillion spending review. The columnist in the Mail for tomorrow on this is Andrew Neil, who's called it delusional drivel. What did the Mail there, Christian, by going after the fact that people sense that they don't think there's going to be anything left or a country worth having for their kids after a Labour government is very emotive, I think, Christian.
I think it is emotive. As I said earlier, I think we're going to get to the end of this Parliament and Rachel Reeves is going to be begging to have another job in government because she won't want to clear up her own mess, you know, if Labour managed to cling on after the next election.
But may I remind you, there's another 4 years to go.
Oh, yeah.
4 years.
I'm not depressed for that.
She can prove herself in that time.
I can be even more depressing than that, I'm afraid. I know that's not what I'm here to be, but all of this is based on the lie that we're pretending we're a better off country than we are because of all the borrowing. You showed that debt clock, which is whipping up so quickly I can't even use it to time eggs anymore. That thing just keeps going, doesn't it? I'll be home by the time I get 4 trillion or something. But no, we're pretending that we're richer than we are, and at some point those chickens will come home to roost, and whoever's in charge at the moment will absolutely hate it. Yeah. There's a reality that at some point has to drop.
The country has to be fixed. It has to be put together after the disastrous last 14 years. It has to be, which left everything devastated, raped, pillaged, just completely destroyed.
Thank you very much. This is the last newspaper that I will bring up just to remind you tomorrow is the Sun's front page. They've taken a different approach to the others. They've just gone straight down the line when it comes to Vive la farce. Rachel Reeves standing up, promising the earth we're back, shutting asylum hotels. The lads on the dinghies were coming across as she spoke. Thank you very much to our wonderful panel. A typically chaotic show, but I certainly enjoy it. Steve, Christian, Nina, thank you so much. If you're watching at 5 a.m. tomorrow, I hope you feel as though you're bang up to date and you're ready and raring to go for the day. Thank you very much, everybody. I'll be back on air at 9 p.m. tomorrow. I'll see you then.
Expect a warm front, moving from the kitchen right through to the rest of the house. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Evening. Welcome to your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. It's been a warm and humid day today. That'll continue tonight and tomorrow, and the humidity sparking some thunderstorms in places too. Down to the southwest, that's where we're looking overnight tonight. Most of us having a dry night. The breeze will be picking up, but down to the southwest, thunderstorms spreading into southwest England, parts of South Wales by morning time. You could get woken up by a rumble of thunder here, if you can sleep, that is, because it will be quite a warm and sticky night in the southwest. Towns and cities holding up in the mid-teens. It's got a warm start to Thursday everywhere. Hazy sunshine for many to begin with across Scotland, northern England to eastern England, but down to the southwest, these thunderstorms dropping a lot of rain in a short space of time. Not great for the morning commute. Could be some hazards on the roads. Those thunderstorms extending into parts of Wales and then through the day into Northern Ireland. So we do have Met Office yellow warnings in place for those thunderstorms. Most of Scotland, though, starting dry and fine, perhaps a little misty along some coast. That breeze will be quite noticeable, getting quite gusty at times across eastern areas and also close to these heavy downpours. Could see some of them developing across southeast England. Heaviest ones likely further west, but then come the afternoon, if skies brighten, we may well spark further thunderstorms over parts of the Midlands. Far southwest of England should get a little bit brighter, whereas it stays pretty wet in Northern Ireland. Quite warm and quite humid. With some sunshine, we could again get temperatures into the mid-20s across parts of eastern England. Many places, they're a little bit cooler than that because of the heavy downpours and because of more cloud. Continued risk of thunderstorms during the course of tomorrow evening. Friday looks a little drier to begin with, but still some showers for Northern Ireland and parts of Wales. The threat of more thunderstorms then coming up from the south later on Friday. There's another Met Office yellow warning for that across East Anglia and the southeast. Friday, probably the warmest of this week. We may get to 30 Celsius in the east.
Expect a warm front, moving from the kitchen right through to the rest of the house. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
£54,321 in totally tax-free cash could make your year the best yet. How would you react if you got that winning call?
Oh my God, I'm going to cry. Oh my God. Thank you.
You weren't expecting to get that call today, were you?
No, I wasn't.
For a chance to win £54,321 cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB14 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 1st of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk
No,
now?
that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up? About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Tonight, we discuss Rachel Reeves' spending review. What was really in it? Did it amount to much? And will taxes inevitably have to rise? I'll also talk about her jibe against me that I spend too much time in the Westminster Arms. Well, maybe she ought to come out and meet a few real people. It would appear that once again the British government has negotiated yet another surrender. This time, it's the border in Gibraltar. And the Red Arrows. Are we really going to replace the Red Arrows with Russian-made planes? Or should we go for British ones? All of that and much more over the course of the next hour. But first, the news with Tatiana Sanchez.
Nigel, thank you very much. The top stories. We are renewing Britain and ensuring working people are better off. That was the Chancellor's message as she delivered her spending review, pledging a £190 billion boost to the day-to-day running of public services. Rachel Reeves announced funding increases for transport networks, defence capabilities and energy security, as well as ending the use of asylum hotels by 2029 through new funding to tackle the backlog. NHS funding will rise by 3% a year in real terms, and the Chancellor also extended the £3 bus fare cap to 2027. The Chancellor also announced a £39 billion house building boost and £7 billion for 14,000 prison placements. Elsewhere, the UK has agreed to a fluid border between Gibraltar and Spain, clearing the way to finalise a post-Brexit deal on the territory with the EU. Under the agreement, checks will not be required on people crossing the border. There will be dual border control checks for arrivals by air at Gibraltar Airport, carried out by Gibraltar and the Spanish officials. President of the EU Commission Ursula von der Leyen welcomed the deal, calling it an historic agreement. Talks on rules governing the border of Spain and Gibraltar have been ongoing since Britain left the EU in 2020. Foreign Secretary David Lammy said the agreement was a breakthrough. Serious disorders broken out in Salford this afternoon after a group of up to 60 masked youths descended on a road in the city. A 16-year-old girl has been arrested on suspicion of assaulting an officer, and a police car has also been damaged while Greater Manchester Police put a dispersal order in place. A witness told the Manchester Evening News that bricks and stones have been left strewn across the road in pretty intense scenes. 6 people have been arrested and 32 officers injured following a second night of violent disorder in Ballymena in Northern Ireland. One of those arrested has been charged. There are reports that multiple cars and properties were set alight on fire as rioters threw petrol bombs, fireworks and masonry at police. The scenes last night came after similar violent disorder in the town on Monday night, which followed an earlier peaceful protest which was organised in support of the family of a girl who was the victim of an alleged sexual assault. 2 14-year-old boys appeared in court on Monday charged with attempted rape. And Brian Wilson, the co-founder and primary songwriter of the Beach Boys, has died, his family has announced. He helped pioneer the studio as instrument, influencing generations of musicians in pop and beyond. It was revealed in early 2024 that he was living with a neurocognitive disorder akin to dementia. Wilson was 82 years old. In a statement published on his website, his family said, "We're heartbroken to announce that our beloved father, Brian Wilson, has passed away. We're at loss for words right now." Rolling Stone Ronnie Wood has said he is in mourning. And those are the latest headlines for now. It's back to Faraj.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
It had a big billing. Yes, it was Rachel Reeves's spending review. Much speculation, a packed House of Commons, and Rachel Reeves, a heavily scripted, I have to say, Rachel Reeves, telling us just how well everything was going in the country. Let's have a listen.
Mr. Speaker, every day it becomes clearer. It is Labour, and only Labour, that has a credible plan for the renewal of Britain.
Well, I've no doubt you're all feeling renewed at home after nearly a year of this Labour government. Now, responding on behalf of the Conservatives, the Shadow Chancellor, Mel Stride, made 1 or 2 quite strong points. He made them rather well, actually.
This spending review is not worth the paper that it is written on. Because the Chancellor has completely lost control. This is the spend now, tax later review. Because the Right Honourable Lady knows she will need to come back here in the autumn with yet more taxes. And a cruel summer of speculation awaits. How can we possibly take this Chancellor seriously after the chaos of the last 12 months?
Well, it's funny how each side throws that word chaos at each other. I think they're both fairly guilty of that. What did I see today? I saw massive promises for huge increases in health spending, proposed cuts in various departments, which may or may not happen, big promises on a reduction of what we'd have to spend on illegal people crossing the Channel claiming asylum. But really, overall, I didn't see an awful lot today. What I do think is here's a government whose spending is out of control. And I think, personally, inevitably, taxes, indeed the tax burden, will have to rise when it comes to the budget in the autumn. That's my view. Love to know what you think. Does this mean taxes rise? Tweet #Farage on GB News or email farage@gbnews.com. But somebody who knows far more about these issues than I do by a country mile is, of course, Liam Halligan, economist, Sunday Telegraph economist and Planet Normal podcast host. Liam, was it the big, great event we were expecting?
It was a nothing burger, Nigel, in my view. It was pure political theatre. It was, if I may say so, on a family show, it was like a Rachel Reeves wet dream because she was able to make all these kind of spending pledges, much to the delectation of the Labour left, without saying how she was going to pay for them. But, of course, financial markets were watching, serious people were watching.
And, by the way, no mention at any time of financial markets.
No, which was astonishing given where we are. Let's just... you know, GB News viewers know me, hopefully, for explaining complicated things in a simple way. So let me just try and explain this. Back in October 2022, at the peak of that Liz Truss mini-budget crisis, you and I covered it in great detail here on GB News, the gilt yield, the amount of money the government must pay to borrow, was about 4.6% at its peak, at its peak. Panic, the BBC going into, you know, complete meltdown about the end of the world. That yield, the government borrowing costs, the amount of the markets charge the government, which is all to do with how credible they think the plans are. It's been way above that peak for months. It's been way above 5% for 30-year money. She should have reassured the financial markets. She should have said how she's going to rein in public sector spending, or at least slow down the rate of increase, not least because the one big saving she hopes to make, or again, a slowdown in the rate of increase of spending on welfare, that's been completely reversed before it was even implemented. So here you have financial markets, they're looking and they're waiting. The numbers don't add up at all, and that's why, just as Labour did last summer, after they got into office in July, we then had to wait till October for a budget when they just said, oh, it's terrible, there are black holes everywhere, the Tories have left us this complete mess. Everyone thought taxes would go up over the summer, investment therefore stone dead. She's just put the economy in irons for the whole of the summer. I thought Mel Stride did do well. I don't think you're being overly generous there. It is now a long, cruel summer of wondering where the tax axe is going to fall, as Reeves Trustmaker
and that
sums it up.
affects employers.
Indeed.
And we saw the employment figures yesterday, disastrously down. But interestingly, vacancies down as well, which means people aren't even advertising for jobs.
That's right. I mean, I know from my business activities, being on the boards of various entities, you know, hiring has stopped because people are really worried about the cost of hiring with the employer NIC rise. You can't pick up those little part-time jobs in hospitality you used to be able to, because the threshold for NIC contributions from employers has come down from 12 grand to simply 5 grand. That's even affecting students who are trying to get...
working in a bar for
trying to get jobs. Inflation-busting increases in the minimum wage, again, particularly for younger people, and that's before what's called the Employment Rights Bill. Now, we all want employees to have decent rights, but Labour's Employment Rights Bill, going through the Lords as we speak, it takes us back to the 70s, Nigel.
Well, isn't the problem?
It takes us back to too much trade union power.
What I'm struck by with employment rights is if you're a company with 5,000 employees, you can probably manage with the new law that comes in.
Because you've got a compliance department.
But if you're a small company with 5 employees, exactly the same rules apply. And they don't seem to understand
They don't understand that because there's no one on the front bench with any business experience whatsoever. You know, your party, you've got business experience, Richard Tice has business experience, Zia Youssef has business experience, and all the rest of it. The Tories, in fairness, Andrew Griffiths has business experience, the Shadow Business Secretary, Mel Stride, the Shadow Chancellor, Kemi Badenoch herself. You've all been in business. Many of you have employed people. No one on the front bench of Labour has employed anyone.
Truly extraordinary.
And no one has got any serious knowledge of financial markets and how they might react. And that's really